Hello, I'm Greg Sutton, Chief Academic Officer for Hardin County Schools. Very glad to have you here with us today with our second part in our series called Impacting Learning, Empowering Students. I'm with Lisa Slaven here today with our second part of this series, and since we're social distancing, we're actually going to remove our mask here today so we can actually make it a little more personable here. Maybe everybody can hear us a little more clear today. But within our series of Impacting Learning, Empowering Students, we've been adding some new positions to our district. The first part of our series this past month focused on our Director of Innovation, Brandy New, and today we're going to be focused on our new, I want to make sure I say this right, Lisa, our new District Transition Readiness Facilitator here for Hardin County Schools. And we're going to talk about how that is impacting learning and student growth here in our district and opportunities. So Lisa, glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Lisa, we're just going to start and let you kind of talk about your educational background, your experiences in teaching here in Hardin County Schools.
So I actually started in Hardin County Schools as a student, and I loved being in school. I loved education, and I really loved cooking and all of that kind of stuff. So I decided to go to school for Family and Consumer Sciences. And then when I graduated from college and a position was open at North, naturally I was like, yes, I would love to go back to my home school and teach there. So I got hired on and I taught all kinds of classes there, eventually ended up running our early childhood education program where kids actually got to go out and get work experience working with children. Added our teaching co-op to try and help get more kids into the teaching field to spread that love and passion that I had for it. And I did that for 9 years. 9 years. And then North Hardin and Hardin County Schools actually added the Transition Readiness Facilitator position at the high school. They put one at North, John, and Central with the focus on helping each individual student get ready to transition out of high school into that next stage, whatever that was going to be for that, and whether it was college or going straight into the workforce. And I had enjoyed being a part of Career and Tech Ed so much. I was able to see students that weren't really motivated, but once you got them into classes that interest them, we got them into the career and technical student organizations where they got to go and compete and see some of the fun stuff and use what they were learning. You really saw them grow and completely change as individuals. And so I wanted to take those experiences I've had in helping students and do it for the entire school and be able to get more kids into our career and tech ed classes. And so North gave me that position and it went well. I've spread passion for career pathways. I worked with students that were trying to go to college to help get them college ready. Mm-hmm. And so naturally when they added a position to do that district-wide, I just saw it as an opportunity to be able to help more kids and said I'd love to do that. Well,
I'll tell you what's amazing, that during this series talking about impacting learning and empowering students. You're the second person we've talked to here in the last month. Obviously, Brandy New, our Director of Innovation, you, the District Transition Readiness Facilitator, the second person that's been a Hardin County School graduate that's actually come back to give back to your community. And we always talk about growing our own and going back with your passion to give back to others. And it sounds like to me that's what you did for the past 9 years. That's been your focus. That's what you felt like your impact could be. And you came right back here, not just to Hardin County Schools, you came back to your home school. You're a yes. North Hardin graduate. We won't make you tell us what year on that one, so that's all good. But obviously taking the new position as the transition readiness coach and now moving into the district level with that. But during your years in education, I want to ask you this. What have been some of the positive changes that have challenged the way we help students? What are some of these positive changes you see that's challenged these students these days? What are you seeing?
One of the biggest changes that I've seen over my years in education was the change in focus. One of the things we talk about when I was teaching our future educators in class was the history of education. And it continually changes. Back in the 80s, we went back to basics and really had a focus on, reading, writing, and arithmetic. During the industrial period, we were really focused on work. And then for a while now, we've been kind of focused on this college push and getting everybody to go to attend college so that you can get higher paying jobs. And I think we finally have it right with transition readiness because our goal now is just to get kids ready to transition into the next stage of life. And so it's college, it's career, it's whatever suits that individual child. And so that's been one of the biggest changes, and it's been one that Hardin County has embraced, and that has made my heart even more happy to just see Hardin County say, yes, we want both of these to be viable options. And so we have tons of dual credit. We have our early college academy where kids are graduating with their associate's degree. And then we have our, 36 different career pathways.
36
that we
career
offer.
pathways,
Yes.
right here in Hardin County Schools.
Yes, which is huge. It's a huge number. I tell parents sometimes, there was a news story last year towards the end of the year before COVID hit us, and they were talking about this big school out in Louisville and how they had 17 career pathways and how proud they were of it. And I was like, guys, right here in Hardin County, your students can choose between 36. And really, it's more than that when you add the HCEC program, the opportunity for kids
Well
to
said.
go to Elizabethtown Community Technical College their senior year. That just opens it up to even more. So the opportunities are really there for anything that they want to do.
I'm glad she said that. With our 36 career pathways you're talking about, we've added law enforcement this year, residential maintenance that focuses on HVAC, plumbing, electric. We've got Nicole Coleman, who's going to be teaching our law enforcement. Tim Hall, we've hired here at Hardin County Schools. I may have mentioned this during our Director of Innovation interview with Brandy New a few weeks ago, but that we want people to know the Hardin County Schools, we're here to serve all students, and we have something that can meet all their needs. And our focus on college and career readiness now, I think, has it goes back to our statement here: impacting learning, empowering students. We want them to take ownership of what they want to be, and we want to help them get there. So thank you for your leadership in that. Now, as you said earlier, you recently served as from a teacher, you became the school transition readiness coordinator. Now you moved up to the district level. So tell us a little bit about that role as a district transition readiness facilitator, and how you're going to use that to impact teaching and learning here in this new role.
Well, there's a couple things that we're going to do district-wide. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is coordinating with all of our transition coaches that are at each of the high schools. Some of them are coming from core content education, and so they have a lot of the college background, and so we want to help educate them on all of the pathways that are available, help them be able to communicate that to students of how they can complete a career pathway, get certified, get work experience. And then one of our major focuses is also spreading that to students, teachers, because other teachers are constantly advising kids. We want them to be informed on all of the options. And then working with each individual student is going to be a major thing that we're able to do now that we have a resource at each and every school.
Goal setting in a way?
Yes, absolutely. And so we want to get down to every individual kid and make sure that each student looks back at their high school experience and says, this was extremely valuable to what I wanted to do. It was purposeful. It helped me. And so Hardin County is really invested in having that opportunity to get with every single kid on what their transition goal is and ensure that their schedule, their after-school activities, whatever it is that they're involved in, is helping them achieve their transition goal.
So maybe the individual learning plan from middle school all the way up is going to be a big part of what we do now, and focusing on that goal setting with the kid. You might talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so when we talk about transition readiness, obviously, I have a background in high school. We have transition coaches located at each of the high schools, but they're actually working to help students to be prepared to transition at all grades. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be helping with is making sure that elementary to middle school to high school, students are constantly ready to transition. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through their ILP. It's their individualized learning plan. And so starting all the way down to elementary, we're doing career exploration, and then we're also doing our work ethic certification is the other one that's starting all the way down at elementary, so that they're building those soft skills and those work ethic skills from day one, instead of waiting until they get to high school and then saying, okay, here's college options, here's career options, and here's what you need to do to be ready to go to work in those. We're instilling those all the way through, and then it continues right along in middle school. They have a new app that the district has invested in that we're going to be utilizing for the individualized learning plan, their ILP, and right there at their fingertips, they're going to be able to look at, if I'm interested in these items, what are some careers that I could do based out of that? So again, not waiting till high school and saying, hey, you have to pick. We're really setting it up to where they have time to analyze their options and really make choices about what's going to be the best for them.
That's right. These kids deserve an opportunity to explore, to see what they might want to be, and then have an opportunity to kind of not just express interest, but kind of play around with that,
Yeah.
with that career a little bit early on and see if that might be a fit. That's important. Now, you also mentioned things, I know we've talked about this in the past, like Cert and things that we're going to do with our transition readiness facilitators at other schools. What about the Cert program, what that's going to look like in preparing kids?
So when kids are transitioning, generally there's two major paths that they go. They either go college or they go straight into the workforce. But overall, their goal is to be able to do the career that they want to do. And so we spend a lot of time focusing on the career pathways because everybody will have a job. But the other main focus is if those kids are wanting to go to college, we're going to make sure that you have every opportunity to be prepared for that, to be able to get as much scholarships as possible, and to be able to make that affordable, which is what we do with our dual credit and our college academy, is being able to offer those classes at a lower rate for them. And so some students, when they take that ACT, they don't necessarily have the scores that they thought they were going to get into college. And you really can't wait until the junior year, which is when we take the statewide ACT, for them to take that and then say, oh wait, I didn't make the scores.
Right.
I don't have, this has now put a whole rock into my plan of going to college. And so we've started
So Cert
doing,
allows them to plan for this a little bit.
yes, so we're taking Cert tests starting their sophomore year. And so they're able to test, check it out, see how it goes, see what kind of content's on there, and then the report that they get back actually tells them what specific skills they need to work on. And then it's not just like a test where you take it and then you're done. It's actually incorporated into their everyday learning. So the teachers are using it to guide their instruction in class and saying, hey, you over here need to work on this skill per the data from your test, and you've already mastered this skill, so we're going to move you on to this next level. It allows us to do a lot of differentiation. When we talk about intervention and helping kids specifically on what they need, we have that test data thanks to Cert that tells them, hey, these are the specific skills you need to work on in math, English, and science, so that when they take that test as a junior, hopefully they see the scores that they need to be able to get into any college that they want to be in.
Very specific. I want to go back and talk about how you mentioned about there's people at the schools you're actually working with, the transition readiness facilitators at the home high schools, formerly what you served in.
Absolutely.
Make sure I'm saying this correct. We have Justin Kraft at North Hardin High School. We have Tara Wooden at Central Hardin High School, both recent hires to our district as well. And we have Jennifer Cobb at John Hardin High School. So now I feel like we have more of a top-down approach to where we have support for our transition readiness facilitators to be able to implement some of these things you're talking about. Absolutely. Right here in our district. So it's not like them on their own anymore. It's us working together as a district. Now I want to talk about your goals. With this new position, maybe discuss some of your short-term and long-term goals for where you see this evolving over the next few years.
So short-term has been pretty stagnant since I was at North Hardin. The short-term goal is to educate people about what we offer here in Hardin County, because students need to know what all of their options are to be able to make the best choices for them, but parents also need to know so that they can help guide that child, talk to them. And there are things that they can be doing outside of the school day, whether that's their job, whether it is going and doing a work study with a friend or a family member, and really checking out some of these other careers that they're interested in. So short-term goal, we definitely want to start educating everybody on transition readiness and the opportunities that we have available to them about all of their career pathways, how they can get certified, how they can get work experience before they even graduate, and then other items that are available to help them transition, like Cert.
So how we communicate this from the elementary school all the way up, all the way into one-on-one scheduling with every 8th grader leading into the end of their 8th grade year, into their high school year. Communication sounds like it's going to be the most critical part of what we do.
Absolutely. We're going to be communicating it, and it's not going to be anything that's new. It's going to be like, oh, I've heard about this before. I heard about this last year, so that we can really build on stuff. Like the ILP and the task lab that we're having, that's going to start when they're in 6th grade, and it's going to continue with them all the way to 12th grade. So they'll be really familiar with it, and parents can say, hey, well, let's get on there and see what scholarships are available. Or, hey, let's get on there and see what jobs are in the area in terms of your career interests. It's going to be communicated to them, the word is going to be out there, and then kids are going to be so familiar with it that they're really able to advocate for themselves better. Instead of us going to them and saying, hey, how can we help you? They're going to start coming to us and saying, hey, I saw this on my app, or hey, I saw this on my cert results, and we're going to be able to help them even more.
They won't have to guess anymore. More ownership. But long term, I guess it's more the big picture.
Absolutely. So long-term goals are pretty lofty for me, but you always hear that statement of it takes a village to raise a child. And I really think that some of the things that Hardin County Schools has put in place is going to help Hardin County itself really grow and thrive. We talked about work ethic certification. We've partnered with business and industry to create the work ethic standards. And so as we continue to incorporate those from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, the employers are going to start to see a difference. They're going to start having a workforce, that is coming to work and that have a stronger work ethic. And so that's going to help their businesses thrive. And then when you include things like early college and more kids having access to post-secondary education, you add things like our career pathways where students are getting certified to do those jobs before they even graduate. And then our co-op programs that we're expanding on top of that, we're really creating a viable workforce here in Hardin County where employers are not having to spend as much time training people, searching for people. Those relationships are already going to be there with the schools, but also the relationships will already be there for the students. They're not graduating and going, where should I go? Where do I work now?
Right.
How do I use these skills? They already have those connections through the programs we've put in place. And so really everybody will be working together to just create a better community here in Hardin County.
I think like Mr. Pitts was telling me at the auto mechanics over there at the Early College Career Center, he, out of like 10 kids, I think 6 received full-time positions here in our community at some of our car dealerships in the auto mechanics area in the last year, which I thought that's powerful. It goes right back to you coming back to Hardin County Schools and teaching, giving back to the kids in the community. Well, they're doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's powerful that we're putting kids to work right here in our own community, and they're giving back and they're productive members of society.
And it's really helping students to start see the connection between what they're learning in class and the purpose of school, and then how it's going to continue and lead into their life after school. They're able to say, hey, I'm working right now, I'm co-oping, and then this is giving me skills and certifications to where when I graduate, I'm making, a livable wage. I'm making more money because of the certifications I earned while I was in high school. It's all about making that time purposeful for each individual.
We're kind of taking out some of the red tape that's not going to lead them to their end goal. We're actually more focused in what we're doing. As far as you working directly with the transition readiness coaches at the schools that we talked about, what will your focus be with these coaches? And how will that impact the student achievement? Like in your first meeting with them, what has that been like, or what's it going to be like when we get started here?
One of our first meetings was, we actually went over an entire timeline of what kind of things should you be doing throughout the year. And one of the things that we were consistently reiterating, we are on trimester schedules, so we're constantly changing schedules. And I was like, you're going to be meeting with students constantly, because at the beginning of the year, kids will be coming to you and saying, hey, my career pathway class is not on here. I wanted to get in this class and I don't see it on there. And so you're going to be counseling them based on what their transition goals are and helping them. But then it consistently happens throughout the year as each new trimester starts and they get their new set of classes. Kids will be coming and talking to our transition coaches, but our transition coaches will also be reaching out and saying, is this the best fit for you? Is this schedule productive? Is it helping you ultimately reach your goals? And that's all going to be data driven. You mentioned Cert earlier, and so one of the things that we work with our transition coaches is we have a whole data sheet. And so when a kid sits down with them, it's not a guessing game. Their information is in there from what were their Cert scores, what career pathways have they already taken classes in. So if they're wanting to switch, or if they're like, hey, am I done? Have I completed this one? All that information's right there, and we make sure that kids are getting the correct information based off of what they need.
And they want to be completers.
Absolutely.
Get an industry certification. Get something that can help them move toward their job that they transition into. We're talking a lot about high schools, but we know that this job's going to be talking about transitioning at all levels. And you mentioned the work ethic already, but what are some of the other things you see about transitioning, from elementary to middle to high? What are some things we have going on that are very impactful there?
We really want to increase career exploration, and we do have some elementary schools who already do like a career day, but we want to make that district-wide. Again, now that we've got somebody in the position that is doing things for the entire district, that's one of the things that we're going to focus on, because when students think about careers, a lot of times, we have our basic jobs, and you'll even talk to adults and they'll come up with the same list of basic jobs. there are so many jobs that are out there, and with all of the technology, the jobs are ever changing and new jobs are being created, new jobs are being added. And so in order for kids to really have any idea of what they want to do, they have to know what's out there. And so that goes beyond just those basic jobs that they're already aware of. So we want to start working at the elementary level and talking to them about all these different jobs. What are you interested in? Well, these are jobs that work in and around those fields, and then continue that career exploration in middle school as well. We've actually added a course. All 5 of our middle schools will have a career exploration course that students will rotate through as part of their elective classes.
And all kids will have an opportunity to do that?
Yes, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will all rotate through it. They'll start to do some interest surveys. We're going to bring in community and business members so that they can talk to them about what their jobs are. Because you can't just put a list up on the board and say, hey, if you're interested in engineering, these are all the engineering jobs. They're abstract and it doesn't make sense to kids. So we want to bring people in to say, hey, this is what I do, this is what my day-to-day looks like, this is why it's fun and why I enjoy it, so that kids really are educated and are able to make a better decision going forward.
So these kids get this class in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Absolutely.
So there's going to be specific things I guess they cover in 6th to help build on to get them thinking about 7th. And then all the way to 8th grade with that one-on-one scheduling. When they make that choice about what pathway they're considering in high school, we hope that's kind of like a culminating event, I guess, leading up to that. That's impressive. And that shows some intentionality about what we're doing here with this job and within our district for students. So I just want to say thank you for that intentionality and caring about students. So we talked about this. We've talked about the 36 pathways in our district. Just continue to talk about your role in those pathways. Maybe something we haven't talked about yet that's critical.
Well, one of my major goals in terms of pathways this year is to really expand the work-based learning opportunity within our district. We have added all of these pathway classes so that kids are getting the basic skills, and then we've added tons of industry certifications to where kids are graduating certified and able to do the work. Now we want to add that other component, which is actually getting them to put those skills into place in the workforce, getting paid while they're doing that so that they can start earning a living wage. And then we also want them to be able to have experience so that when they graduate, they're as employable as they can be. When you take an industry certification plus work experience plus the work ethic certification that they can earn in Hardin County schools, it really just makes them that more appealing to any employer, and it's going to make them easier for them to get a job.
So you're wanting to increase the co-op opportunities, the on-the-job work experiences, maybe even apprenticeship opportunities.
Absolutely. Okay. And Miss Morgan, our superintendent, she has been working diligently on this. We really want equity for all students in Hardin County, and we want everybody to have options, all of the options that are available to them. And so one of the things she's done is to help erase some of the roadblocks. And this year we will be starting to offer transportation to some co-op sites for students who aren't able to transport themselves, so that there's no longer that hurdle preventing kids from being able to get these opportunities. Every student that wants to go out and work within their career pathway, we're going to try and find them a work placement and be able to bus them to those. Right,
and once they can earn a little money, put that money in their pocket, it's just going to open doors for them for other opportunities. Let's talk about this. This is always the number one question. How are we going to measure success? I know we've talked about short-term and long-term goals. Let's just say we're sitting here 3 years from now. How are we going to measure the success of the work that we're doing here in Hardin County Schools with the district transition readiness facilitator and working with the transition readiness facilitators at the schools? What's our measure here?
Well, really, back when I was in the classroom, one of my first indicators of success and that I was doing the right thing and that I was where I was supposed to be were definitely the personal testimonies coming to me from kids. I'd have kids, obviously as they're graduating, everybody gets all sentimental and they come and talk to you about, how much you've helped them and how much high school was different after having had my class, been involved in my career pathway, kind of giving them a focus. But then even after graduation, I'd have kids, messaging me on social media and saying, I still remember and I still use the stuff that I learned in your class, that I learned in our early childhood pathway, and it's been so beneficial to me. And I think that's going to be one of our indicators of success. You're going to start hearing these success stories throughout the community. It's not going to be just us saying, hey, look at these great things Hardin County Schools is doing. It's going to be students saying, look at these great things that I was able to do because I went to Hardin County Schools. You're going to start hearing it from parents. You're going to start hearing it from business and community members. They're all going to be saying, hey, have you guys realized what's going on in our classrooms at every grade level, and how it's really helping students. So that's one of the big things that I'm looking for. But other than that, there's going to be hard data to back it up. So we talked before about our transition coaches and how they have their data tracking sheet so that they can make sure that they're reaching each and every student and helping them with their goals. That data is going to speak for itself. When KDE puts out, how the schools are doing, and it comes out every year and it's in the newspaper and all that stuff, the numbers are going to speak for themselves, and we'll be looking at transition readiness across the district and how those increase due to the things that we've put in place.
Sounds like that data collection form, sounds like you're hoping that's going to be a consistent process for our district. What one transition readiness facilitator uses at one school, the other one uses it to other schools as well.
Yeah, the information that is on that form is pretty straightforward. We know what kind of things we're looking for. Are the kids involved in dual credit? How are their CERT scores? How are their ACT scores? Tracking their pathway classes that they've been involved in, because sometimes kids want to change pathways, and we want to give them that opportunity. We want them to have a well-rounded education. So if you try something and you don't like it, then we want to work with them on how we can change that. And so it's important to see how many credits they have, what pathways they've been in, where we can kind of guide them to next. And that form is really used in many different facets, whether it's one-on-one counseling, whether it's scheduling. We sit down to schedule a kid. We're definitely looking at that and saying, hey, you're a half credit shy of completing this pathway. Would you like to take, one more class next year so that you can be a completer, so that you can earn your industry certifications? So it's definitely going to be something that helps us make sure that we're catching everything.
And I think we're sitting here talking a lot about our community. I think what we forget, that I get reminded of every year whenever we have our distinguished alumni recognitions with John Wright, our superintendent, Ms. Morgan, formerly Ms. Johnson, going to some of those distinguished alumni banquets and seeing former graduates from Central Hardin, John Hardin, North Hardin, and seeing what they're doing, not just in the community, across the world. This could be global.
Absolutely.
And I think we don't want to limit ourselves to just community growth. It's a huge part of it, but we got to remember these kids are going to go out and impact people in other states and other nations, and those testimonies, when they come back and say, it all started for me at EC3, or it all started for me at, like for you, North Hardin High School and Family and Consumer Sciences, or a former graduate of Central Hardin who I saw was doing, they were engineering down in Texas, and I just thought, wow. We're far-reaching with many of our former students, and when we talk about this series, impacting learning, empowering students, that's what this is all about. And I appreciate you being here with us today. Is there anything else you want to add before we move on today?
I would just like to say how proud I am of Hardin County Schools, and like I said, it's not even going to be us having to say for much longer, look at these great things that we're doing. It's really speaking for itself, and I think even the news-wise, during NTI, when schools shut down with COVID, Hardin County Schools was on the news pretty consistently saying, hey, look at the things that we're doing for schools. There are great things happening, and I think we just need to continue to spread the word and make sure that parents and students know so that they can take advantage.
Yeah, and you're seeing some of that innovation now with our online academy, still during this pandemic time, and I guess we've been given a challenge, and we're reaching up to that challenge to do what's best for kids. And something that we have here is that some of the jobs that will be needed in the future have not even been created yet. You mentioned that a while ago. For these positions that haven't even been created yet, how is this position of yours going to, mold these future employees?
It's interesting you asked that, because you mentioned earlier we're adding new pathways.
Constantly.
We don't just look and say, hey, this looks fun, let's add this. We actually had to do a lot of data and research recently as part of our federal Perkins funding that we received, and it's called a needs assessment. And so we look at the needs of the surrounding area and what businesses are growing, what industry is growing, and where do they need workers, so that we're not just blindly preparing kids and saying, you want to do this job? Yes, we're going to prepare you for it. No, we're saying, hey, you want to do this job? These career fields are actually viable fields that are increasing. These jobs are going to be available for you when you come off the graduation stage from high school or when you walk off that graduation stage for college, because these are jobs that are continuing to grow and increase in our area.
So with needs assessment, it shows me you're not just being intentional, you're planning ahead.
Absolutely.
And then we're looking at what we really need to input into our school district to meet the needs of future job opportunities.
And STEM has been a buzzword. I know a lot of people are looking for STEM jobs and STEM classes, and it's really incorporated in so much that we do. Even the middle schools, the career exploration class that we're going to do, when business and industry come in to talk about their pathways, one of the things we're pairing up with those guest speakers is a hands-on activity to help them understand that job and that career field. And they're all STEM activities because these jobs are all part of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's embedded in the career fields. So it's not just what we need locally and what we need in our area. It's that national goal of increasing STEM and getting more people involved in those career fields.
Which takes me to the next part, is that Brandy New, who we had her with us last time on Director of Innovation,
Yes.
She spent a lot of time talking about the STEM initiatives with her job. So I'm guessing that the word collaboration is going to come into play here.
Oh, it already
with
has.
your job and her job.
Absolutely. She and I have been collaborating on a lot of things. The middle school careers class, obviously with her background in innovation, we've been partnering with her to help us come up with a lot of the STEM activities that the kids will be doing. And then I was bringing in the pathway information saying, hey, these are our pathways. These are business and industry that can present on these jobs. And so she's helping with that hands-on component. She's doing a lot with kids at the elementary school level. So where we talked about including those career pathways and career exploration, she's also helping to make sure that they have those 21st century skills and have the technology background down in the lower grades as well. And then she's also working with me with the ILP that we're doing, and that's going to be K through 12 as well.
And I think when you're sitting here reaching out to our community like this, we want our Hardin County School family to know, we want our community family to know that when we're creating positions like this, our Director of Innovation, our District Transition Readiness Facilitators, these jobs that we're creating here in our own district, you can see how they're impacting students. And that's why we're talking about impacting learning and empowering students with this series. So I want to thank Brandy for being with us last time. I want to thank Lisa with you being with us here today.
Thank you.
Our next part of this series, we'll probably be interviewing either Nicole Coleman, our law enforcement, or Tim Hall, our new residential maintenance teacher. So we're looking forward to those programs starting this year in 2020-21. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a great evening.